We hit the first swim there. I tried to not do what I do to you, but I did want to give it a good go on the swim. But honestly, the French swim runners, they also do their swimming volume as well, and it was quite a competitive swim. Swim number one, even chopped it up with some paddles. There was some action in the water, which was quite exciting, but the race was underway. We got out at that first exit, and you actually kind of looped back around on that bridge, but we were going and we were operating at a pretty good clip. I think my perceived effort out of 5 zones, zone 4 almost immediately, which was spicy. I was like, okay, this could be, I'm not sure how long I can like hang at this, just because of the heat and the sort of pace that we were going. Bonjour and welcome to the Low Tide Boyz, a swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and this is episode 286 of the show. We have just a bare bones, raw race report for everyone this week. Chipper's in France. I'm in Costa Rica, but we're making it work. Chipper, you just did your first race in France, Swimrunman Lake Vassiviere, or Vassiveire Lake for us gringos over here. How was it?
It was great.
Show's over.
All right, thanks everyone. See you next week. The French swimrun culture, it was really cool to be fully immersed in that, see how they do it over here in France. The course as well was really something spectacular. I was, as the course is unfolding, I was like, parts of it is like Casco Bay, parts of it's like orcas and everything there. So it was really cool to have a very unique experience, one I will soon not forget, and with the new partner, with Olivier from France.
Yeah, I mean, this has certainly been a year of first. I mean, we did our first, you raced with a new partner for the first time. We did our first triple with Annie a few weeks ago. How did this race, so we already know you're in France for a family wedding, so we're like, hey, might as well do a swim run, which obviously all swim runners approve of that plan. It requires bringing extra pool buoy and stuff. But how did this race in particular happen? Why don't you let everyone know kind of like how all the pieces fell into place for this race to take place for you?
Yeah, so the vacation was really anchored around this wedding that's up in the north of France. So I had that date on the calendar, and then like we preach here, I went over to Dave's list and said, "There's got to be." I know the swimrun scene in France is really cracking. It seems like almost every weekend there's a French swimrun here. So I went to Dave's list and I found one that the date aligned, and then I basically Google Maps it and kind of see like, what would the logistics be like? Found one, this Lake Vassiviere here, and then sought approval from the wife and family before diverted the vacation for a weekend. But everyone was in for the experience. It was a great time.
Yeah, I mean, approval was certainly granted. I was behind the scenes on a lot of this stuff, and I found it really interesting and just almost lovely and a testament to the swimmer community how the second you mentioned that you were looking to do this race, Nicholas Ramirez was connecting you with a race director. French Swimrun Twitter got into this and was super helpful. So why don't we talk a little bit about how you found a partner and how everything worked out for you to race with someone?
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, this year for us, the Low Tide Boyz as like a swimrun team has certainly been the most unique that we've ever had. A lot of firsts for us, a lot of changing things up, and really like unlike any other swimrun season that we've had across the 20 plus swimruns that we've done. But I got a new experience trying to seek a partner out in a new language, in a totally new region, 9 hours away. And I definitely got a new appreciation for, honestly, how it can be pretty challenging to kind of find that partner. Not just like, hey, I find someone that willing to do this with a foreigner and a complete stranger, but somebody that is at least kind of in the ballpark of your fitness levels and range and willingness to just go out there and try something totally new. But I did. The swimrun matchmaker himself, Nico Ramirez from Onbowl Swimrun, put me in touch with the race director of Swimrunman, also Nico. So he has been a great host, and he immediately connected me in with some folks in the community. So I actually had a partner lined up, originally a female partner, but they did have to drop out. I sought out to look for a new partner there, and that's when Jean-Marie of Attila Photography fame, if you've done any Attila race in Europe, you've likely had your picture taken by this fine man. He said, you need to check out the French Swimrun Facebook group. So I went over there. I typed a message out in English, threw in ChatGPT, got a French version, threw it on the Facebook page, and within an hour, I had like 6 responses. Some people just saying, hey, Chipper's a great guy. You should do it with him if you can. And then a few other interested parties. So Olivier ended up messaging on that thread, and he said, hey, let's see if it happens. I messaged him. He has done Otelo, the World Championship, the last 3 years in a row. So 24, 23, 22. So we had 2 years of overlap there. You know, I checked the results, and funny enough, the 2 years that we had overlap, we were within 20 minutes. One year he finished 20 minutes before us, and the next year he finished 20 minutes after us. And I was like, oh man, this is really going to work out well. And that was like all I needed to know there. And we sort of connected on WhatsApp, and he's been a great host to me ever since. But that's what it kind of took to get the partner locked down. Once that part was figured out and me and Olivier were connected, that was kind of a big relief for me, because it was really, oh man, I don't want to show up with no partner. That would be certainly a situation I wasn't trying to get into.
Yeah, let's not have it be any more stressful, especially going all that way. I loved how it all kind of worked out. It seemed almost serendipitous in a way on how everything lined up. Tell us viewers and listeners, well, how was the scene? So you get to Lake Vassiviere. Spoiler alert, it was crazy hot, like hotter than anticipated. But how is the village, the packet pickup scene? What was that like?
Yeah, so this was a man-made lake, we later found out. And actually the packet pickup was on Vassiveire Island. So they built an island in the middle of this lake, and there was a 200 or 300 meter bridge that you walked across or could drive a very small European style car over to. And, you know, similar to any US race or any race in Sweden or Europe, swim runners all about pull buoys. Actually at the train station, funny enough, my wife spotted someone's pull buoy and looked and said, are you doing the swim run? And the guy was like, how did you know I'm doing the swim run? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, we'll see you there. I was so pumped. It was really cool. It was great to see a lot of the French swim runners there. I'm fairly certain I was the only American there. I think everyone was speaking French, as you might expect. But one thing that really came throughout the day, so much pride in racing for France and representing France, from wearing their French Federation shirts, their French triathlon, whatever organization they're part of. Just a lot of pride throughout there. They had the booth with some gear, so they had different sponsors than ARC and Vivo Barefoot and the stuff that we're used to in the United States with Otela stuff. They had Zogs goggles, so got to check out some of that. That Makaro, Makro swimrun brand. They were renting some wetsuits, had some pull buoys and stuff. So really a cool scene. People were hanging out, and this race in particular, or this event rather, was actually like 5 or 6 different races. So we arrived, the kids' swim run was underway, a little small, I think it was like 1K total race. So my kids were like, whoa, that guy's like, he would be in my class kind of thing. And they were running up the hill, was cool. Then later there was the night swim run. So people were really excited for that. So there was a night and day swim run, which is kind of like a combo, which is part of like the French National Swimrun Championship. The competition was fierce, and there was some really fast French folks out here racing that to take hit at the championship. So on that, you know, bridge to the island, I actually passed Olivier, my partner, and it was like I hadn't actually seen his face before, but he was WhatsApping me, oh, I'm at the thing. I'm like, okay, I'm walking up now. And we passed it. I was like, I think that's him. And I called him on WhatsApp, and he turned around. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And there was, you know, definitely a language barrier. I was very excited, and I talked fast. He's like, slow down, slow down. I was going too hard for him, but he passed me my bib. He had the chip, and we kind of aligned. We had been aligning on our goals, what we're trying to be, and, you know, just go out there and have fun. We kind of talk shop for a little bit on this bridge. He had his friends with him, and I had my family, and I was like, bring a tether. He's like, I brought the leash. Very nice job on the leash. Looked very tidy. I said, this will work. I said, I'll lead the swims. And he's like, okay. I was like, you can lead the runs. I was like, okay, sounds good. Let's do it. So we kind of hashed out the rudimentary details of what it was going to be like on the bridge there. And yeah, we ended up grabbing a bite to eat after and went back to our cabin, which was actually part of the course Our cabin was where we were staying, our Airbnb was part of the course. The plan was my family would be able to actually see us go by on part of the race. Spoiler, it didn't actually work out that way, but we'll dive into
Yeah,
those
yeah,
details.
we'll certainly get to that. And I will say, so what everyone's listening and watching right now, it's like these are the conversations that Chipper and I have after each one of us does some sort of endurance. We would
Yes.
always have these conversations, usually on a bike ride or something else, but it was a standing sort of fitness date to be like, all right, you did your race. I need to get my race report. So I think with that, I know that you've been training for this. You've been working with Coach Liz. Shout out to Coach Liz, just had a baby. Congrats to her and Jacob. It's awesome, awesome
Yes.
news. How did you do anything particular in training for this race that maybe is different from what you've done before?
Yeah, great question. And I will take this opportunity to thank Coach Liz. After every race report we record, I am like, oh my God, I have not properly given thanks to Coach Liz, who I've been working with now for over a year and a half, but she has gotten me in really great shape, returned from injury for every race there. I've really thoroughly enjoyed working with her. I think we have a great relationship going and we're very aligned there. So I've had a great time working with her. But yeah, sort of part of the understanding working with her as well was like, hey, this is kind of like a vacation and this race is sort of, but yeah, in specific kind of the training post Catalina and post Swimrun Bellingham was kind of punching a little bit of speed into things. So, there was maybe 2 to 3 weeks ish of kind of fully ramped training after a little mini recovery block after Bellingham, but really some kind of faster 1K efforts, especially in the pool as well, and kind of working back up on some of this gear in the pool with, some longer swim sets. So faster efforts, 1K plus on the runs. And then the swims were more of the kind of like a 300 block, but 4x300 or something there. So some real endurance, but not a lot of set it and lock it in on the endurance and just kind of cruise. It was variable speed and progressive stuff, really working on sharpening and fine tuning the speed mechanisms here.
Yeah, so I guess before we get into actual race day, what did you do in terms of gear?
Yeah, so, traveling for 14, 15 days in France, had to go really minimal with the setup. Luckily, I knew it was going to be warm, so I brought the VIG and the kangaroo top, and I did bring arm sleeves just because they're small and it's like a pair of socks basically. So I thought just to be safe, I'll bring those.
Air or big sleeved?
Just the VIG
Regular VIG.
sleeves there, and believe it or not, that was actually too much wetsuit for what the day demanded. So the water temperature, we were already in France and they had reported that the water temperature was over 25 C, which is upper 70s, low 80s water temperature. The air temperature was 85 plus. I think it got up to into the low 90s on that day. So a hot day. They actually greenlit just racing in like what you would race like a triathlon, like your triathlon race suit. And I will say when I turned up, 95+% of people had their tri suits only. There was no wetsuits. I was one of maybe a handful of people that had a neoprene wetsuit on. And as I was suiting up, I was like, okay, I think I might be in for it today. I might be in for it.
Did you consider, well, I guess it's kind of hard, but maybe even like shedding the kangaroo top, but it's like then where you're going to put your stuff.
Yeah, I needed the kangaroo top. I think an ideal, I don't even have a triathlon suit anymore. I guess if I could have finagled one from somebody, that would have been ideal. But a kangaroo top with maybe even a swim skin probably would have been the ideal race kit for this race because of the conditions, like extreme heat, extreme warm water, and humid. So like a trifecta of heat.
Well, ironically, that's how warm the water is in Costa Rica. I was like, I was preparing the kids because they didn't even want to go into the pool over here, and it was like, trust me, just go right in, you'll be
Just
fine.
jump
We're
in,
like, oh
yeah.
my God, it's so nice. Like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, we've raced in a lot of different conditions, but I don't think we've done a race where it's been like so ridiculously hot. I mean, we've done Austin for sure where it's been warm, but even there, like the water temps would still be like in the 60s, which would
Yeah,
give you a chance to cool off. So yeah, interesting new experience for sure.
definitely. Yeah, it did. I know our normal training ground that we go to, Chris, the water temperature runs a little bit hotter. I would put it at one of the warmer days that we've been there. plus the air temperature. So like I have done some training in this kind of weather, but not like at race pace, not with 2,000 feet of elevation, and not in France.
Yeah, and you probably felt like, did you feel like this is like partner dynamics? It's like new partner, it's like kind of like first date, blind date, like you're trying to put your best foot forward. Like, did you feel
Yeah, it
like you
was,
could be
you know,
honest with
I
Olivier?
was
Just be like, hey man.
I was puffing my chest out a little bit. I'm like, oh, we'll see how this goes. I was certainly trying to impress. So Olivier, actually, the previous weekend did the Ultra Swimrun Colte Vassiveire, I believe. So 75K swimrun. He ended up having to drop out after about 6 hours on that one, but he still had 6 hours of racing. I think he had some back issues as well. And I was like, oh man, I hope it's not me that's causing all these back issues somehow with the
Yeah.
swimrun partners. But he was a little bit concerned about how his back would be as well. We were communicating about that, but he ended up to be pretty fresh there before the race.
So yeah, let's get to race morning. Kristen and the kids, did they come out to see the start, or they were just like,
Yes.
we'll meet you on the course somewhere?
No, they came out to the start. So, France, they like to sleep in. Coffee shops aren't even opening till 8 in the morning, which was honestly quite the shock to me. I was struggling. Chris knows how much I need my coffee, and I'm very much in the coffee scene, which I would say France doesn't have the most bustling coffee scene that I've seen around. But yeah, 8:30 start time, so pretty leisurely morning, honestly. I wanted to make sure to really stay on my routine. We had to drive in, so kind of got my breakfast items, got my stretching, my 10-minute stretching session in before, kind of got everything. Definitely was doing a lot of preloading with the hydration before with the PFH 1500, trying to stay really hydrated because I did know it was going to be a demanding day on my body from a heat perspective.
Yeah.
So that was something that I really tried to keep top of mind, and kind of stuck to that plan. And, hey, when everything else you don't have so much control over, focus on controlling what you can. And hey, I can control that I'm drinking water and I get my electrolytes in, and I'm have my kind of pre-race, breakfast and everything there. So that was something I was really kind of more focused on there. But yeah, getting there race morning, ended up actually parking right next to Olivier there, and we went a little warm up jog. We probably did 3Ks or so. Honestly, probably a little bit too much warm up for me. I was
Mm,
like leaking,
already, yeah.
leaking immediately. I'm like, ooh, and I was opened up. I think I might have been cabbed down actually for just the run, and I'm like, it definitely set the expectation that it was going to be a very hot, challenging day for me. And yeah, so we ran down. The first run was maybe like a K, so we did that with our warm up and saw the swim. You actually swim under the bridge that you kind of walked in on, so it was cool. Everyone got to go and look and swim under the bridge, so we kind of saw, and I'm like, okay. And we were talking through, very similar to the stuff that we would do as well. So it was kind of cool. Like, it's really just the same thing. He knows how to swim run. I know how to swim run, and we're just siding it up. And I'm like, oh, under this first archway. He's like, yeah, that's where I would go. I'm like, cool, we're good, man. And I'm like, he's like, everyone starts out very fast, very fast. These, French people off the front. And I'm like, yeah, try to be chill. So
Yeah,
I
be
was,
chill, baby,
be
be
chill,
chill.
man. Be cool, man. It's a long day, man. Just be cool.
It's like, do you see how much I'm sweating already?
Yeah, I mean, I was profusely sweating, and he looked at me. He's like, "You okay, Tripper?" I'm like, yeah, I'm okay.
It's like
But
I always look like this.
I always,
Given how hot it was, I already know where you're at from a nutrition, hydration. Like you had your salt tabs. What was the fueling plan? Just try to hit 90 an hour and then just make sure that you're taking as much electrolytes as possible.
yeah, 90 plus an hour there. I did my 15-minute PFH calf 30, so hit that down to get some caffeine and top up those carbs. And then yeah, I packed along 590s to the PFH 90s, and then another caffeine gel that I've been using. The Beta Fuel from SIS has 200 milligrams of caffeine, which is quite 45 grams of carbs, 200 milligrams of caffeine. So I've been testing these out in my training runs. I quite like them as just like an extra bonus. 200 would overdose, Chris. I think that's your monthly intake.
Yeah, I basically have 10% of that during races.
Yeah, and so yeah, that was my plan. I brought my PFH flask. loaded up, preloaded with the powder. I think one mistake that I made in hindsight, I should have actually had it full of water at the start, loaded up, not like ready to deploy it. That was one mistake that I think kind of started me off on a little bit off the back foot, to be honest, in retrospect.
Yeah, so the race starts at 8:30. You were doing the half distance, which on paper was 38K
38K,
total.
yeah.
A
Yeah,
bunch of
14 runs, 13 swims, and there was the racers in the corral, and Nico, the race director, came over. He was so kind to me at the packet pickup in here, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, I can't do an English race briefing," but he brought me over and he like showed me the flags and everything. I'm like, "Yeah, I got it." I'm like, "Plus, I got this guy with me. Like,
I got a French
here's
guy
my
with me.
tour
That's
guy. I
good.
got Olivier with me. He can help me figure it out." A lot of building really great energy. They had their own announcer. Didn't know what the hell they were saying, but everyone was getting pumped up, clapping the paddles, and I counted down from 10, and then boom, off we went. And like Olivier, like he predicted, a big group of maybe 8 to 10 folks just shot right off the front to really hammer it home. We kind of stayed back, and very similar to how we deploy our tether leash, as it's known here in France. Kind of one thing I noticed about the way that the French do swim run, I think, Chris, we're maybe, hey, there's the water there, maybe 50 meters ahead. They're half a K before the swim. They got their caps on. They're ready to go. So
Yeah.
that was something, a little bit of an adjustment for me, but that I did find that you could really charge into the transitions and out of the transitions if you're well prepared. But yeah, we hit the first swim there. I tried to not do what I do to you, but I did want to give it a good go on the swim. But honestly, the French swim runners, they also do their swimming volume as well, and it was quite a competitive swim. Swim number one, even chopped it up with some paddles. There was some action in the water, which was quite exciting. But the race was underway. I've made a horrible decision with my wetsuit situation. It was like, yes, the water's here, and okay, it's just nice to have something cooler than the air barely
Yeah.
over your skin.
Yeah, for sure. So that first swim, usual, you're kind of like seating yourself, pretty challenging. Did you feel like you were getting enough recovery from the heat from the water, just from having your wetsuit, which with the non-wetsuit panels can kind of keep you cool a little bit
Yeah,
when they stay wet? Did you feel like, oh, the core temp is coming down a little bit, or was it you were just still just kind of
a
focusing on
little
racing?
bit, but it was hot. Like, I think my heart rate never was able to come down to kind of where I would have wanted it. And I think with a cooler water temperature, that would have helped my body settle down a little bit, for lack of a better word there. So, yeah, and we got out at that first exit, and you actually kind of looped back around on that bridge. But we were going and we were operating at a pretty good clip. I think my perceived effort out of 5 zones, zone 4 almost immediately, which
Whoa.
was spicy. I was like, okay, this could be, I'm not sure how long I can like hang at this, just because of the heat and the sort of pace that we were going. The terrain wasn't particularly challenging. It was, very much kind of reminded me of like big trees with the rooted, our local trail, big trees in Novato, kind of your Bellingham vibes, your Orca vibes. You have some redwood, lots of tree roots there, and kind of some gravelly path. Overall, the terrain wasn't overly sort of technical, but yeah, it was manageable. But the pace was quite high. I think out faster than I should have gone, to be honest. And I think a mistake that I made there is I should have communicated that earlier about, hey, I need to bring this back, like consider like we need to dial this back a notch right away. But I tried to kind of, maybe pride or
Yeah.
whatever the situation is. I wanted to hang with Olivier.
It's like
Yeah.
blind date stuff, right? It's like, oh, you're there as your representative of like, oh, I can somehow, it'll be fine. I'm trying to look
Yes.
good here.
Somehow I'll be able to do zone 4 for 5 hours, and we'll just magically, I could pull it out of my ass
Yes.
with not good
Yes.
sleep, jet lag, somehow it'll happen. But yeah, anyway, we went off. One strategy I did take as leading a few of the swims, I did get on some feet, because I'm like, I learned that when Will would take some of the swims at the Catalina, Otelo Catalina, being on the back, you can really bring that heart rate down. So I was like, I need this to be able to keep going at the pace. So I did manage to grab some feet for a couple of those swims, but it was still quite high pace.
Yeah, so walk us through the race report. So you're through the first run, you're through the first swim. As usual in swim run, you start figuring out who you're racing with, kind of jockeying back and forth. Was it pretty crowded overall, or was it like our usual swim runs where all of a sudden we're kind of like maybe we see a team ahead of us, maybe behind us, for kind of no man's landing?
Yeah, so for the first 4 runs and 3 swims, we were, jockeying back and forth with the mixed team, quite strong on the swims, that we would grab the feet of the swim, but on the runs we would be out and kind of be able to open up some gap, but pretty much at the transition we would be at the same place. So 3 or 4 runs to swims there. We were jockeying back and forth with the team, so it was good racing. Other than that, similar to kind of what happens when we race, there wasn't a lot happening. And the half distance that we did was the earlier race. They let off I think there was 4 other races happening that day. So every 30 minutes or an hour, they would let another race off, which I think caused sort of what happened at, I think around swim 4. There's a part of the course that if you're doing a shorter distance of the course, which is about 30K, you actually go across to another island. Our route has you going hard right and doing a swim up. Olivier was leading the swim because I was pretty cooked. So I said, hey, he looked back, he's like, you okay, Chipper? I'm like, can you he goes, I lead the next swim. And I'm like, please. Yes, sir, please. And so, I will say, I thought Swimrun Man puts on a great race. The flag situation for the swims could have been better. I found it to be hard, but these swims are 600, 800 meters away. Maybe the color of the flag for the background, I was having a hard time seeing. But when we went in, Olivier was asking the volunteer or someone in a boat, where's the exit? And they said, just go to that boat. Obviously, ultimately, it's we need to know what the race course is. But I think the volunteer on the boat thought we were with a different race and pointed us to cut across.
Gotcha.
So at that point, we ended up accidentally cutting 8 kilometers of the race off, and we missed the whole top section, which was us running back by my family where they were waiting for us at the cabin. And I said, hey, we'll be there,
no.
Probably like 90 minutes, 1 hour to 90 minutes. And later my wife told me that they were sitting there seeing everyone go by and they hadn't seen us. And then the sweeper went by and was picking off the flags. And she was like, is that everyone? And they're like, yeah. And she's like, oh no, like she hadn't heard from me and we haven't been by. Yeah. So she kind of was like freaking out mildly on that one. No. Unbeknownst to us, we took a wrong turn and we were really in no man's land because we were not seeing anyone else. But on this run, we were on a course because we were seeing the flags and everything.
Did you realize pretty soon after, like, oh yeah, I think we might have missed a turn here?
Because the swim was within, if it says 600, we're ready for 500 to 700, kind of like, you got to be ready for a little bit of that. On the run, most of the runs were short, 1.2K, a K, 800. There was an 8-kilometer run in there that we knew was going to be the long run of the day. But it was supposed to be maybe a K run. And we're like, where's this aid station that we were going to get? Because I hadn't been able to fill my flask up. So not only was the pace too hot for me, I wasn't able to get my fluids on me. I was crushing my gels. I was on pace for the gel, fueling piece. But I needed the hydration. I was really starting to feel the hydration and the sodium intake needs. But that, after about a K, then it came 2K, 2.5. And we're like, whoa, where's this aid station? And like, this run should be over. So that's when we were kind of starting to get worried. But we were on a race, like we were on the course. So we were seeing flags. So we're like, just keep going. We didn't know any better. And then we hit an aid station, and then that's when we realized that we were on the 8K run, which I had intended to cab down, but it was kind of one of these things that, we only thought we were going to do.
Yeah.
At the aid station, they just had a couple water jugs there. I was doing shots. I was like 4 of these things, filling my bottle up, and it was good. Olivier was great about letting me try to correct myself and get back on the right path, which I was able to do, very diligent and like really severely over, taking a lot of fluids in,
Yeah.
which really helped me. And we also pulled back on the pace. I finally waved the white flag and I said, I got to go a little bit slower. But he was great
Hmm.
about the chipper checking with the pace. And I would say yes or pull back. Hey, I need a walk break, similar communication to what we have, but just 3 words. um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I felt like we were, at some point in my watch, I checked and I'm like, we're at 20 kilometers and we were supposed to see my wife at 13, 14K. And I knew that
Yeah.
something was amiss, but all we could really do was keep charging ahead, still operating at zone 3, like still at a tempo plus pace. So we were still
Hmm.
moving as good as we can. After that aid station, we were way over the mileage and I knew we missed something because we were supposed to see my family there. That's when we knew something was up.
So what did you guys make some decisions around? Should we go back? Should we do, or at that point you were like, we just need to proceed because we're not even really sure where we are. Like, what was sort of the thinking once you kind
Yeah.
of realized that you'd cut the course or, took a wrong turn?
So the team ahead of us, that mixed team, was also directed to go the same way that we did. So there might have been maybe potentially 1 to 2 more teams ahead. So when he was, I assume, when he was talking to the people at the aid station, he was like, what's, and she goes, oh yeah, the last people said too that the aid stations are different than what the map said. But the volunteers, I think it's not their job to know the entire course and everything. They're there to disperse water, keep the spirits high kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
again, and this is a PSA. We love our volunteers. We need our
yes.
volunteers. Do not expect a volunteer who might not even know what swimrun is to have a detailed knowledge of the race course or in any way be responsible to give you the information that you need to succeed. They're there to be supportive, but if you're relying on them 100%, that's a own goal more than anything because it's
Yeah,
just not their job to, do, I don't know, be totally briefed on every permutation of the race.
absolutely. And yes, please, by no means, I'm not trying to make excuse for this. It's just what happened. And yes, it is on us
Yeah.
to know the course and to know which way to go. But it is what happened during the race. But yes, love the volunteers. They were excellent at the race. Their high amount of regard for safety and everything there. Overall, 10 out of 10 from the volunteer standpoint. We were pretty deep into the race by the time we had actually confirmed that we were on this long run, because the long run was probably 22, 23Ks into a 40K race. So
Mhm.
the ship was already sunk at that point. So
Yeah.
it was like, let's keep going. Maybe it got too hot and they diverted people. We didn't really know.
Sure.
There wasn't a time that we felt, oh, when you kind of get that gut instinct of like, oh, I should have went left instead of right. We never had that instinct click in for us because we were on the course the whole time. We were on the course. We just did the half
Right.
distance one essentially. So that's why it never kind of clicked over for us to be very aware about, oh, we should turn around and try to backtrack everything. So we just kept going. But yeah, the 8K run was quite challenging. It reminded me a lot of the Swimrunman Lake James when you're just in the middle of the forest and it's like
Yeah.
no one's out here. I'm like, at least we're not the first people here because the grass was like knocked down, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So we know we weren't the first ones here. But yeah, there were some sections that the grass was 5 feet high. It's 85 degrees. It's humid. And it was like all just like a humidity bubble, essentially,
It's
just
like a
kind of
little
running
oven.
oven in there. But I had my flask taking on the gel. So, again, swim run, you got to expect that the plans are going to go to shit at some point. So I knew, hey, keep on my fuel because if I'm not fueling, I'm not going to be able to make it. Keep on my hydration and try to keep the pace up the best I can. And those are the things I really focused on. We know that something had happened to the course, but that's all we can focus on, and that's kind of really what we were doing. So,
Right. Yeah. And you
so
basically knew, like, once you knew you were on the 8K run, at least it's like, it's not like we're, some random place, right? At least we know
yeah,
we're on the course. But at some point you realize, okay, we obviously missed a section and now we're here. But at least you kind of have some confidence. It's like, well, it's not like we're running back to Paris or something like that.
yes, definitely. And as I for some of those swims in the middle swims when I was quite fatigued and really trying to come back from my sort of dehydration or get rehydrated, Olivier was great. He led a couple swims back to back, which really did help my heart rate get back and recover. I was able to put out a better effort on the runs and then also start going back and leading some swims there because he was doing a lot of the work up front. We kept the leash tether engaged the whole time, didn't unclip it once, which was just really reminding me like this is the best way to do it. And it would literally, we'd be going down or going up and it would just, I could feel a taunt and he would just, you could just see him like just kind of dial it.
It's like having Google Translate on your waist.
Exactly. Yes. I didn't have to go, yo, Olivier, I'm dying back here, mate. Let's hold on. He just felt that, and he knew we
Yeah,
just
you
cared.
could start strumming the bass line for Enter Sandman or something.
And
That
it
thing
was
so
it was
tight.
doing like double dutch, like jump rope. It was twizzling around. It was all sorts of stuff. But it was a great tether he had, and yeah, we did the same setup there. But yeah, we just kept pressing on, and then we got connected up to the French Championship race, which was a 13K race. So they did the night race, started at 10 p.m. Then in the morning, they set off, I think, at 10 a.m. Same 13K course, but this was part of the French Championship. We were at an aid station. I was trying to, pull myself out of whatever crater I dug. I thought it was horses going by, galloping. This was a pack of like 6 teams just booking, just didn't even look at the aid station to consider even stopping.
Yeah.
They were just booking, going through very young, sub 30-year-old folks, mixed teams, male teams, female teams, just really hot pace, brought good energy. And we raced with them for like 2 transitions and they were off. But it was quite energetic to have them come through. And we started to mix up with 2 other races that were happening there. And so we knew, okay, we're kind of getting close. And then he had the markings on his paddle. He's like, okay, we have like 2 more swims to go. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then we started to get into these, there was a 500-meter swim and then like a little 50-meter island that we would swim and go over, which I always kind of like those, nice and quick and tidy. And he goes, okay, Chipper, last swim. I'm like, oh, right, let's go. So we were hammering it out and kind of working in some, they weren't back markers from the other race, but some other folks of the race. So we had other people to go around with. And then before we knew it, we were on the last run to the finish. Our watch was around 30, 31, 32K. So we know that we had not done the full piece. Yeah. But we had finished up, and the men's team ahead of us was the winners of the classic race, the 28-kilometer race. So, 100 meters up from us was the winners of the other race. And we came through. My family was there cheering everyone. It was really great energy from everybody. I was pretty cooked at the end. And, some people were like, what are the gold bibs doing here? Probably 30 to 45 minutes ahead of schedule for the winners. And then we had seen the other mixed team there, and Olivier immediately started talking with them. And they were like, I was just standing there, and there's 3 people just talking French. And I'm like, I think they're saying what I want to say and questions I have. So I'll just hang out here and kind of like see how it goes.
Just nod.
So we had kind of figured out that we took a wrong turn, and my wife came over and reported. They had great tracking. They had probably 10 to a dozen tracking check-ins along the way. And she's like, yeah, you missed these 5 checkpoints. So we were on pace, and then we just dropped off the map. And then like an hour later or an hour and a half later, we got picked up at the other one. So clearly we had missed it. But we went over to the big course map that they had there. We were like looking, we're like, where did we go? What happened? And we were like trying to diagnose where we had went wrong.
By the way, a little thing for race directors. I love the giant course map at the check-in village. Highly recommend that. Any swim run, especially for, if there's a lot of moving parts, go to Kinko's, people, race directors. I'm talking to you. Print out one of those big, it's super helpful. It's super helpful to just almost visualize where you are rather than seeing it on your phone or something like that. It's just like actually being able to put your finger on it can be really helpful, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were kind of able to know like, hey, we didn't do this like loop because we just cut. And so, but we still were, even looking at the map, we honestly did not even know where we took a wrong turn because again, it wasn't a, hey, we should have went left versus right sort of thing. Anyway, own goal, as you said there. But at the end of the day, me and Olivier had a great hug. Thanks for giving me a tow. Thanks for picking the slack up when I was down. He had a great time. I had a great time at the end of the day. And, that's really what we sought out to do. Still felt like I got my money's worth, but would have loved those extra 8Ks and do the full bit.
Sure, sure. Yeah. In your text to me, I was like, obviously how it went because I was trying to find the results and, I didn't see you there and stuff like that. So I figured something went sideways. But yeah, you mentioned it's like, oh, it's a, bad trend. They were in a
Yeah,
bad trend
two
of like
races in a row.
missing,
I was like, not a good
missing
trend.
markings. Yeah, but I think, despite that, I think, how would you rate sort of the race, Swimmerman as a race organization, the course itself, kind of like the whole vibe of like, when we spoke with Bronwyn and Greg about a month ago when they did Lac du Verdon, the ultra race there,
Yeah.
they had super high marks for Swimmerman. Would you confirm or deny their score?
Absolutely, absolutely confirm. Very high marks there. I'm putting it up there with an Otelo race put on by Sweden, by the US. Like, if we're calling those 10 out of 10, this was certainly a 10 out of 10. Maybe a nitpick here or two. The flags, the hay, or like a sign pointing to the right swim at some intersections, I think, like, would have obviously potentially could have helped, but ultimately again it's on us for the own goal and the miss there. But
Sure.
yeah, put on very well. They had some great swag. I got a Swimrun t-shirt. They had hoodies, long sleeve, hats, socks, the whole get up. I had to drop some coin there.
Hoodies for everybody.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice,
But
nice.
yeah,
Yeah. So I guess
top.
so. We certainly. I mean, it seems like from our knowledge, all of the swimrun races just look epic. Lac de Laffery, that one is another ridiculous one that ends with like a vertical K, which is just like as epic as you can get. Well, yeah. I guess like any final thoughts. I mean, obviously, besides missing the course and things being outside of your control in terms of weather and stuff, like how would you, what are your final thoughts on the day?
Yeah, I mean overall, like, this is a destination race, and I think I learned a lot about myself as well. So I'm coming away with things I can always improve on. I do think heat training, especially, I felt like I was one of the bigger folks out there. I wasn't as lean and mean as some of the French men and women out there. And having a little bit of heat training and then having that water bottle full to start the race, I think would have really helped me do a little bit better. I think maybe, if you can afford it from logistics and cost wise, the least jet lag you can be, the better. Obviously, I think another day probably would have done me solid overall, but still feeling happy with the result there. Felt good for my performance, really pushed myself and had a great time with the new partner in a faraway land.
I love it. And now you're on proper vacation, sort of mid-season break. Is that
Yes,
what's in the cards for you?
I got my Training Peaks has no planned workouts for the next few weeks. So, like after you win the World Series, we're going to Disneyland, baby. Taking the family to Disneyland for a couple days. So I'll walk out all the soreness the next couple days in Disneyland Paris. And then we're headed up for another 4 or 5 days for the wedding and then some more family time there before returning stateside in July. So really looking forward to
Love
that.
it.
It's been a really quite the adventure for the Nicodemus family here, but I've had a great time and really awesome that I can mix the swim run into it and manage to have a good time out there.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and have pool buoy must travel is kind of like you should probably put that on a shirt or something, right? I'm so glad you had an awesome race. I mean, as we mentioned at the beginning, this has really been a year first for the Low Tide Boys, like racing with different partners, different categories, different form, the whole thing. And I think I certainly felt this way after Austin when I raced with Viv. It's just like, wow, I feel like I learn a lot more about myself in swim running when I'm not just doing it with the same person. I mean, we've done so many swim runs together that it's sometimes it's easier, like, yeah, maybe being in France and like listening to people speak in French, maybe that unlocks like a new understanding or a new appreciation. I mean, I certainly
Yeah,
appreciate you more when I race with other people. And I think it's the type of thing where, we love the sport so much and so much of it is about there's all these different ways to experience it. And I think it's pretty cool that, after you and I doing 20 plus swim runs together, that we can still find new ways to find new, or there's new ways of exploring the sport, which is just
absolutely.
another thing that makes it so great.
Yeah, that's such a great point. You're either discovering, I discovered new things. I also confirmed a lot of things that we knew about the sport, and the tether leash is the way to go. And hey, there's nothing wrong with saying you need a break and letting your partner take lead on a swim. so you can bring the heart rate down. It really solidified a lot of things that we've learned as we continue to try to level up our knowledge of swimrun and our swimrun IQ. That's
Beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing.
it is a beautiful thing. And thanks for all the kudos and support from abroad. I know I'm posting and I'm texting Chris. I'm like, what time? I'm like, oh my God, it's 2 a.m. I'm like texting you at 2 a.m. and all this stuff. So, really appreciate all the support that everyone's given out. And yeah, another great one. And next you'll hear from us, we'll be stateside. And
Yeah,
Chris,
another one in the
what you
books,
have
man.
coming up?
Congrats. Yeah, so I'm doing Attila Whistler here in about 2 weeks with Annie Molesbury. So we're going to be doing the sprint, which again, trying to be really smart about my recovery from injury. And she was like, we should probably just do the sprint. I'm like, you know what? You're probably right. So it'll be first time doing a sprint race. So that'll be a first. And yeah, looking forward to going back to Whistler because that was such an awesome race last year. So stay tuned for that race report in a few weeks.
Absolutely. How do we usually end these things?
I think we just say we did it,
We just
or
say we
you did
did
it
it.
in this case.
Over and out.
All right, dude. Good
All right.
vacation. See you
See
stateside.
ya. That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swimrun.
Check out our website, lowtideboyz.com. That's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boyz on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboyz@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swimrun and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run,
And then a swim,
then another run,
then another swim.
then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
Of
too.
course, yes.
And